Okay, MTV Cribs, let's check out the rides. I've assembled a magnificent selection for you. Each car has a special place in my heart. It's been with me at a very important moment, starting with my 1998 Aston Martin DB7. When I signed with the Lakers in '98, my homeboys Kobe and Shaq told me I needed to treat myself, so I bought this beautiful James Bond Aston Martin. Now, in 2001, when I got my Grammy for Best New Artist and my album went platinum, I got this 2002 911 Turbo. Oh yeah. And now to celebrate my breakout acting role on Too Fast, Too Furious, I'm expecting an Academy Award for that, I've bought myself a 2003 Hummer H2. I just bought it, so no rims yet. I'll probably get some Lexanis or some GNLs, but right now, got the king daddy of Cribs cars. So MTV, hope you enjoyed the tour of my crib, my house, my cars, my refrigerator, my bedroom. But now, it's time to say goodbye. Peace! Get out of here, go! Get!
It is the single most embarrassing vehicle a human being can drive on today's roads.
Oh no, he didn't. Oh hell no, Doug. This isn't the most embarrassing vehicle you can buy. I just bought the cheapest one, and I'm not embarrassed. Now, obviously, when Jalen will give me permission to start buying cars again, he probably didn't picture the cheapest 2003 Hummer H2 in his head. But still, look at this beautiful machine, only $6,200. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you all are questioning my sanity even more than usual with this purchase, and even more so when I tell you that I actually sold my 1999 Lexus LX 470, my Land Cruiser, the best SUV in the world, to be able to buy this Hummer H2 for $6,200 with 195,000 miles on it. Don't be hating, but I stand by my purchase decision proudly. I'm not embarrassed in the least bit. At all. It's kind of broken, but I'm not embarrassed. Now, unlike a lot of vehicles that I purchased by accident, I was actually actively seeking out the cheapest running and driving Hummer H2 in the USA, and I found this one for only $6,200. Personally, I feel like the Hummer H2 is a misunderstood future classic, admittedly built during the low point of General Motors when it came to quality, but a design and concept that was actually well ahead of its time, and it would sell well if it were brought back today under different circumstances. Still, that all came from not having first-hand experience with a Hummer H2 and actually owning it, so I decided to seek one out and found this giant Tonka truck example. It is a well-worn example of an H2 with 195,000 miles, and probably parking this tacky thing in my driveway is lowering the property values of the entire neighborhood, but I don't care. Don't be hating. Now, I actually have a little bit of personal history with the H2. Way back in 2003, my dad was one of the first people in Kansas to take delivery of a brand new H2, and he kept it for all of 2 weeks. He traded in his Yukon Denali for it and immediately hated this thing. He'd only seen it in magazines and in pictures, and then when he saw it, he wasn't that impressed. He also didn't like the ride quality or the cheap interior, and the fact that the third row seat is cut in half to make room for the massive oversized spare tire. So he traded it in actually for what he paid for it. He didn't lose a dime towards a new Cadillac Escalade. Flash forward 16 years now, I'm 32 years old, double in age, and the Hummer H2 has actually held its value really well. It's worth about double a comparable Cadillac Escalade or Yukon Denali, and that's just because you can't buy these anymore. This is it. The Yukon and the Escalade have gone on to have long, happy lives, while the Hummer died an embarrassing death in 2010 during General Motors bankruptcy. It actually was almost saved by the Chinese. A couple of Chinese companies tried to buy it, but it all fell through, and the Hummer brand died in 2010. I'm sure the Great Recession and $4 a gallon gas had a lot to do with the demise of this $60,000 SUV that got 10 miles per gallon, but there's also, I think, a little more to it. Back in 2003 when this came out, it was the must-have vehicle if you're going to be on MTV Cribs and showing off all the cars in your driveway. You had to have a Hummer H2. But not long after that, seemingly overnight, the Hummer H2 became a symbol, a villainous symbol of American excess. Of course, the Hummer H2 is a really easy target today to make fun of for its excessive plastic panels that kind of make it a caricature of the original Hummer. And the interior is filled with horrible, cheap-looking plastics. The acceleration is awful, something like a 10-second 0 to 60, and even more awful is the visibility. These windows are really small, the blind spots are terrible, and the MPG is awful list. It's really, really bad, but I wouldn't call this H2 a bad vehicle. It's actually really good. Under the hood is the 6-liter Vortec, which, in my opinion, is General Motors' most invincible engine they have ever made. And my example is a testament to that, because at 195,000 miles, this thing is still running great. And by the way, Doug, I know these handles on the original Hummer were used to lift a Humvee with a helicopter using the frame. These are actually bolted to the frame, but on the H2, it's a very practical handle to close the hood. It has a purpose, even though it's different from the original purpose on the original Humvee. Come on. Now, when I say it's running great, I should say it's running great-ish. It obviously has a really bad exhaust leak, and I'm not sure if this noise while I'm moving is from the very worn tires or if I have a bad wheel bearing or a bad differential. The airbag warning light is on and the interior is very worn. My driver's seat is torn. There's a lot of worn looking and broken plastic panels, which is pretty normal for a vehicle of this age. But one weird thing is my footwell, the driver's footwell, is drenched in water. Also, it seems like my air conditioner isn't working and I have a giant crack across my totally flat, weird angled windshield. But still, I'm not disappointed in the condition of this thing. It's actually really solid, and considering I bought it sight unseen from cross country at a dealer auction on the East Coast, I could have done much worse. This thing still drives fine. So, you know, could be better, could be worse, but I'm not disappointed in the least. I'm still smiling when I drive this thing because it is so hilarious, and there's nothing else that looks like a Hummer H2. Nothing being built today that comes even close. New SUVs are really disappointing in their styling. They're obviously much more aerodynamic than this rig, a flat windshield, but you know, that aerodynamics comes at a cost. They all look the same, they're all blobby looking, and it's why new offerings that are different, like the Kia Telluride, really make a big splash for being blocky the way old SUVs used to be. Now we have the Kia Telluride and the Jeep Wrangler for somewhat affordable new SUVs that you can buy along with a few expensive ones. I guess the G-Wagon is still very boxy, but still none of those come close to the in-your-face crazy styling of the Hummer H2. It's just so silly, and driving this thing, even though it doesn't drive all that great, it's still pretty comfortable and pretty capable and just fun. All right, let's give it the beans. 30, 40, 50, and 60. We made it. I mean, that doesn't feel like 10 seconds. It doesn't feel awful. Yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised how nice it is, given the fact it has 195,000 miles. I was expecting the panels to be rattling like crazy, everything to be falling apart, but really, it's just normal wear. I also expected the ride to be a lot worse, but this is actually not bad. And these seats, they have so much foam and cushioning to them, which you don't get in new vehicles. It's actually really comfortable. Wow. The Owen Wilson wows are coming out. Wow. And if General Motors were still making Hummer to this day, and they had the quality that they have nowadays and executed it a little bit better, but the same kind of design concept and feel, I think this thing would be a smash hit. They could bring back Hummer. I think, obviously, a comeback is never gonna happen. So all we'll have is the memory of the Hummer brand and the dwindling supply of these that are left on the road. It kind of reminds me of the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, which was once seen as a dinosaur of a car that was way out of style, that nobody liked, and now it's kind of a cult classic. They once sold for nothing, and now they're bringing big big money, and it's not too much of a stretch to see millennials lusting after an H2 in the coming decades, bringing up the values, much like what's happened to the Grand Wagoneer today. Now, my Hummer will never be a collector quality example ever again. This one's pretty well worn, unfortunately. But I'm going to do my best to bring this thing back as much as possible. Now, I haven't had my mechanic, the Car Wizard, look this thing over thoroughly yet. I've just been driving it around. But I'm not too worried, even if there is a massive list of repairs, because Hummer parts are still really cheap. They're shared with most GM vehicles of this era and plentiful. So I'm not too worried about fixing it like my Rolls-Royce or BMW. Then I can really start enjoying this vehicle and see if the nostalgia and the laughs will wear off and the little idiosyncrasies start to get annoying. But one thing I know faux show is I am never going to be embarrassed driving this H2. Don't be hating. And thank you for watching. Peace, MTV. Peace, MTV. Peace. Peace out, MTV. Oh, get out of here. Get. Is that cringy?